However, I did get up this morning and spend a pretty stupid amount of money on getting to Seville in 2 weeks.
Right. How much? Do you mind me asking?
So that my flights are 1,400 quid.
Yep. Good Lord.
Our accommodation's quite expensive too.
There's got to be a quicker way to do it. I mean, fly to Barcelona or something and train it. They've got high speed, don't they? So
there was almost nothing. And I didn't want to do like a 20-hour journey. I'm not interested in that. I'm too old to do stuff like that. The way to keep it reasonably quick was Glasgow, Heathrow, Gibraltar.
Right. Cool. When is this game?
British Airways.
When is this game actually on?
18th.
18th of June. May.
Yeah.
All right, Christ. I'm just like
13 days. 2 weeks yesterday.
Yeah. Amazing. That's good. Who are you playing again? Remind me.
Eintracht Frankfurt.
They've actually having a good season, aren't they? Even though they're historically quite a poor team in the Bundesliga.
Well, we beat the team who are currently second in the Bundesliga, which are Dortmund, and then last night,
amazing. Yeah.
Last night we beat the team that are currently fifth in Leipzig, and Frankfurt are currently 11th.
Yep. So you're saying basically you can beat Bundesliga sides, right?
It doesn't. Well, yeah. I mean, top 5 Bundesliga sides beat them all, but it doesn't mean we'll beat the team that's 11th. But
no, it will be a great match, though. I think this is the first time Rangers have been in a final for about 30 years, maybe.
No, 2008. Like 2008, Rangers turned up in Manchester and smashed Manchester up.
Really? What game is it?
We got beat by somebody like Shakhtar Donetsk or somebody like that in the final it was the same competition. Or Zenit St. Petersburg or somebody, and loads of Rangers fans got sent to jail and stuff, and they smashed up Manchester City Centre. This is
it. This is a big fear for Seville, beautiful city. You know, I mean, I just hope the Rangers fans behave themselves because let's face it, the reputation precedes the club, sadly enough.
Well, hopefully it's too expensive to get there for the types of people who want to smash places up. Manchester was quite easy to get to on the megabus.
Right. And also you can imagine that there's not too much like a hostility towards Spain, I would imagine, per se. So anyway, we're just talking football because obviously there's interesting things happening in the world of soccer. I mean, some interesting European stuff anyway. So, right, let's get on with it. Welcome everybody to Brainfood Live on Air. It is episode 153. We're bringing it to you every Friday. I'm delighted because the sun is finally out. We've been waiting for this summer to arrive. The UK, I think like most of Northern Europe, has just been like blanketed by grey clouds. I've been like kind of depressed, I have to say. But the last 2 days, I think, 2 days in a row of sunshine gets me feeling, we're on our way. So I'm pleased to be here. I'm going to finish this show and I'm going to be straight to the park afterwards. Anyway, let's I guess we need to do some sound checks, I guess. So I just want to make sure in Crowdcast, can everyone hear me okay? I think you can because we are talking soccer, so that's fine. We should be live streaming this on LinkedIn. So if you're on my LinkedIn profile right now and watching it there, give me a thumbs up or something. Let me know whether you can hear me okay. We should be blasting this out on Twitter and Facebook as well. So hopefully you can hear me in those places also. Let me know via some sort of social yes, no, maybe that you can hear me okay there. Okay, I can see myself on Twitter, at least 3 people watching. Hello, you 3. Okay, cool. Let's get on with it. I mean, we won't get to talk too much about the sponsor because guess what? The sponsor's actually going to turn up today and gives us a tutorial. So let's go straight into the newsletter, mate. Did you read it last week and was it any good?
Yeah, it was. So first thing I want to talk about is Brian Chetsky's letter to all of the Airbnb employees to say, here's our manifesto for living and working anywhere you like. And I thought I'd actually seen him being interviewed on a show a few weeks ago, talking about the same thing. He is currently living a nomadic lifestyle, checking into Airbnbs all over cities in the US, mostly the US, a bit of Canada as well, but in that time zone, a bit of South America, but in that US kind of time zone area. And he has been loving it. He's been booking in as himself, not telling everybody like I'm the CEO of Airbnb, but some people know, some people don't know. Some people roll out the red carpet. Some people don't even know when he's left. He gives them all a review. He's doing all that stuff. And, he's just trying to make sure that he understands the experience. But anyway, apart from that bit, he's told everybody, look, you go and do it as well. Do as I do. It's not just for me to live this lifestyle. So he said that you can live and work anywhere you like. If you stay in the same country that you're in, your salary will be the same. The most important bit for me was actually the fifth point, I think, in this letter, which was we will continue to maintain a highly coordinated approach to the way that we work. So it's not like chaos. We will continue to run a very, very effective business. And I think that was really important because a lot of people might read that and go, sounds like a recipe for chaos.
Yeah, it's, he basically, I think there's lots of reasons why it works for Airbnb. Obviously, the nature of their business, right? I mean, they've got to be one of the businesses that thinks, there's a bit of a WeWork slice of the pie here for what they want to do. It's not just now going on holiday. You can go for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months on a kind of a longish trip and work from an Airbnb. So I think from a business point of view, makes perfect sense. I've been to the Airbnb offices in San Francisco, so there's a big commitment for them to downshift away from that. That's a big investment, but the nature of their business suggests that this makes perfect sense for them. I think this is laudable, but I think at the same time, I'm a skeptic because I think that the only businesses that can get away with this type of permissiveness are going to be outright market leaders, basically, that have a significant gap between them and the competition, that they can afford to do a risky-ish experiment like this and not have to worry about the next quarter being whatever because of this move. I think if you're in a hyper-competitive scenario where you are fighting cheek by jowl with some very close competitors, you ain't making this move. It's going to be too risky. So I think that Eventbrite have done it, Airbnb have done it. I think that there's other unique companies that have more or less established the category. They're the ones that can try this. But I'd be interested to know whether any other business is going to give this a shot. If so, let me know. Let me know in the chat whether you think that the Chesky approach, which is basically remote anywhere, remote anytime, is something that you're going to persevere with. Because I think when we first started doing this 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, basically we all forced to do it. But now we're talking about hybrid, and now there's a big push back to office. Where do you sit on all of this? Are you an Airbnb type of person in terms of how you think your working mode is going to be? Very interesting, and I like the fact he's written about it to his people, and he's talked about it externally as well.
Incidentally, it's not a work from home company. If you don't want, you can work from the office as well. They do have offices, they maintain offices, and if people want that, then they can have that. I think in every form of trying to bring the best people into your organization, it's as simple as this. The more options you give people, the bigger your talent pool is going to be, the bigger your addressable market is going to be. I
think that's true. However, I also think that I think you're going to get a retention issue nonetheless, because the experience that people have of, let's say, working in an office, the ones that want to work in an office or like doing that, even the availability of an office of a company that's 95% not in office, I think it'd be very different. So their expectation, how they compare, what they will compare their previous experience with what they're now going to encounter, and it's not going to be basically a full office. So I think that's an issue. Right,
it is. I agree. And actually, it leads on to another article that I wasn't going to talk about, but I will since you just mentioned this topic, which is the BBC work life series, which talked about the growing tension between work from homers and work from officers.
Yep, very interesting.
I wasn't going to talk about it because I didn't read it properly, but I skimmed it, and so interested to know what you got from it.
Yeah, definitely. By the way, BBC Work Life isn't that a great blog? I mean, they're consistently nailing it. I didn't expect like a big corporate brand to be able to produce this quality of content. Big brands basically just chum out stuff, don't they, in the end? But these guys have really got some deep research and have found a way to make this research accessible. Anyway, I've just shared it in the chat stream there. Is there a tension between people that work remote and people work in office? Turns out there is, because there's concerns about proximity bias, basically. And there's you kind of tribalize into different groups because immediately you're going to be talking about different things, small things like shared in-jokes, which we now understand as microaggressions, right? So when you share an in-joke that someone else is not included in, that could be considered to be small act of hostility. If you persist in doing it, someone might actually have a long problem with that. Like, why are you excluding me? But this is, it may not be intentional, but it will emerge simply because there's a bunch of people going to see each other every day and there's another bunch of people that won't. And it turns out actually the remoters end up talking to other remoters more than the in-officers. So you end up having two different company cultures.
Yeah, no, this makes sense. I think you've got to be very, very skilled communicator to avoid all forms of microaggression, if that's considered a microaggression. But I can understand to an extent why it would be. And it's sort of, if it's magnified, it's the concept of FOMO, isn't it? You're on a meeting, there's like 3 people in the office together. There's a couple who are not in the office, don't work in the office, and they will definitely miss out on things. So I do understand why people who work from home will be more likely to like communicate and collaborate than with the people who are in the office. It's a difficult one, and it's all these things that are just emerging for the first time.
Yeah, it's all emergent. We're all figuring out. To be fair, some companies have done this pre-COVID. Remember, the ones that made the decision to go full remote pre-COVID generally tried the hybrid first. The biggest bit of evidence for me that's helped me kind of develop a critical position towards hybrid is just looking at companies that tried it intentionally pre-COVID and then abandoned it for full remote, usually because of this issue. Because essentially you got groups of people having different informational universes is the term I want to use, where basically they're inhabiting different bits, sort of different information ecosystems, if you like. They overlap, but there's going to be separation. And when that separation is there, then either you're going to spend a huge amount of effort trying to close the gap. So a huge amount of cultural overhead is going to be spent making sure everyone's on the same page, which is why I think we're doing loads of Zoom meetings and all this type of stuff, constantly trying to check up and make sure everyone's on board, etc., literally on the same page. Or you kind of end up having two groups kind of bifurcating and turning into two separate things, which, by the way, may not be a bad thing. I mean, maybe that's how you do it. You know, you have two different company cultures.
I'm ashamed to admit that, every single week I have got a list of the things that I read that I found the most interesting that I want to talk about. But I'm ashamed to admit I'm just about to do what I did a few minutes ago, which is you've just brought on another one, which I didn't read properly, but it was, and I wasn't going to mention, but since you talked about it, it was the one about, in contrast to the one about like have 2 days a week where there's no meetings, it was all about one-to-ones and how you've got to have regular cadence. And so again, what were the sort of main reasons that you put that into the newsletter?
I like to put contradictory stuff in because I think Brainfood is Brainfood, right? It's there to stimulate the mind. It's not the source of truth. It's a source of interest and intellectual stimulation. You are responsible for deciding what you think is true. So it's not me trying to do that. I don't want to be the person saying this is the case. So sometimes when I find a convincing argument, even though I don't particularly believe in it, but I think the argument is solid and is well constructed, it goes in. So in this example I've just shared in the chat stream there, it is about someone who is basically keen to have, he's a manager, he does one-to-ones and he does agenda-free meetings. So the week previous, we talked about someone who said, no, you never do agenda-free because that puts too much pressure on the employee. You have to have an agenda. Don't surprise the individual. And I thought, yeah, I agree with this. Then I read this guy and I said, can I agree with him as well? So it's hard to figure out what's right, but read them both. And then maybe you learn something about how different managers, different companies are dealing with these issues. But yeah, this person's philosophy is basically to say he wants to create, he wants to get away from meetings as being status updates. He's saying at no point is it updating the manager about what's going on. Manager should already know what this is going on in terms of just looking at the operational data. He or she needs to have that information anyway. You don't wait for your direct report to directly report this. You should have access to it. What the one-to-one meeting is about in this example is actually the employee's time. So he's saying, you know what, it is there for me, the manager, to listen to the employee and then figure out how can I help this person with their medium and long-term goals. So it's not about short-term tactical stuff unless there's a problem that the person brings up and says, can you help me with this? But it's about, okay, where are you, Adam, in your career? How are you on track in terms of what you want to do start the year? What other things have emerged in that time that's caused you to think you want to do this? How can I help? That's what he wants to do the one-to-one meetings for. And the subtext of all of this is that he's building these very strong relationships by making it 100% employee focused. He's building stronger relationships with those people that can kind of see these meetings not as onerous events to do. You know, I don't know whether anyone's had that feeling where you have to meet your one-to-one with the manager and it's an onerous thing because you have to report on how you've done or whatever. He wants to just eliminate that sense and have it instead to be like a welcome coaching session with a trusted mentor, where the employee's thinking, you know what, I really want to have this meeting because it's going to help me go forward. And I thought, at least in terms of his motivation there, was bang on. Yeah, anyway, great post. Have a read. Okay, one more, man.
Right, onboarding. 13-step onboarding framework for software engineers.
Yep.
And so as somebody who is literally going through an onboarding program right now, I found it interesting to read about the structure and the thinking around this structure. So there was in this article, I mean, this is not for software engineers specifically. It can be applied to anybody. I think there's a couple of nuances in here which are important because of the way that engineers work, but it can be applied to everybody. The bit I liked about it specifically was this 13-step framework for onboarding. And I think in the first 30 days, it suggests, here's 7 things that the employee should feel. And then by day 60, there was another 4. By day 90, there was another 3. And by day 150, there was another 2. And actually, it didn't add up to 13. I think it added up to 15 or something. But anyway, by day 150, the person should be effectively completely up to speed with their job, and they should be able to start collaborating and producing.
I'm just flashing this on screen, by the way, folks, because Adam is absolutely right. I love this post because it does provide frameworks like this. And you can see it's just a Trello board, right? But it gives you some very, very clear guidance. You know, if you're trying to onboard people and you don't have any sort of framework, it can be very hard to invent. But obviously, why invent the wheel? This is a 13-step onboarding framework, and I think it just totally readable. Of course, you can add your own stuff and take away your own stuff, but I think that, you know what, this makes sense to me. If you've got nothing, just adopt this. This would work for you. So yeah, I thought this was really good. I wonder how your onboarding with iCIMS compares to this, actually, just in terms of, I mean, obviously I don't want you to say good or bad things per se, but you've been impressed so far, as I understand, by how professional the onboarding is. By the way, multiple frameworks you can use here. So definitely read this post. It's probably one of the best ones that you can use. How do you close video? Unfocus the screen. Is that right?
Yeah. It is really interesting for me because I haven't done like onboarding for 12 years or 13 years or something. No more than 15 years, since 2007. And that was not an onboarding. That was a get on with your job.
That was getting in the pub. I remember, wasn't it like getting
that was
2000 or something?
No, that was 2004. I had another job after that, 2007.
Right.
It was there's your desk, get on with your job. But yeah, I mean, certainly there is where I am, there is definitely a focused, like, coordinated onboarding, and reading that framework. I feel like I'm at about day 60 I'm actually at day 30, but I feel like I'm about day 60 based on that framework that you just showed there. Or maybe even day 90, to be honest. It's been quite fast tracked, but
so
really
I think
good.
it's intense. It's probably overly intense in my view, because I think that may be, I don't know. I think there's an element where people just want to be crammed in, and I just wonder whether that's ideal. I don't know, but yeah, that's not untypical, I would say, of your experience. Right now, I think it's pretty typical once you've been acquired. Maybe that's a different style of onboarding. I don't know. I mean, if you were hired into a role, would the onboarding be different? Probably a little bit. Yeah.
I've just remembered I haven't completed my background check.
What do you mean?
Anyway,
references and stuff.
Yes.
Who'd you cite? Investors, I guess. Oh, who? Oh, sorry. Yeah. HR's not paying. HR license is not paying attention to this, I assure you. Okay, let's get on with the show. We're talking about programmatic job advertising. Folks, if you're watching this on Crowdcast, can you please just vote on the poll below? Because I think Dave is right. Not enough people have voted on this. I want your honest opinion as to, whether you have used, whether you're using programmatic job advertising currently, whether you have used programmatic job advertising before in the past, or whether you have never used a programmatic job advertising. Please vote. A reason why I want to do this, I've banged on about this more than once, is because I asked the question, how are these changes, the cookieless future going to affect their recruitment advertising? Recruiters didn't have a clue. They just didn't care about it. They didn't care. Didn't seem to know enough about how advertising worked to kind of critique or commentate in any way about what I think are particularly significant differences in what's happening in ad tech. And then it's just occurred to me, you know what? It may be that we haven't gone beyond the classic, the last innovation we've seen in recruitment advertising is multi-post via ATS. It's like, oh, great. I can now press one button and dispatch it to 300 job boards. Brilliant. And that's basically as far, I think, that activity's gone mainstream. But the use of smarter ways of kind of displaying your ads, I don't think has. So hence, I've thought, you know what, we need to just give a tutorial on this one. But Adam, you do know something about advertising. What is your take on the state of it with regards to how recruiter literacy in terms of how advertising works?
Well, thank you, because that's the first time you've acknowledged that I know anything about anything, to be honest. So
you have a very narrow skill set.
Thank you for that. I mean, I'm definitely, I definitely don't know. I definitely don't know as much as Robin does. But yeah, I understand programmatic advertising. I know quite a lot about how it works, and I think that most recruiters probably don't really need to. They probably don't really need to understand the ins and outs of it on the basis that they probably don't really do it. Sorry, that's meaning to say this is a waste of a show. That's not what I mean at all. What I mean is most people who have taken part in this poll and said, I don't do it, I have not yet used programmatic job advertising. Their company probably has. Recruitment marketers maybe have. Teams that are in charge of talent attraction probably have. But yeah, I think that it's really useful for a recruiter to know how it works, because when they go on to be a TA manager or a TA leader or something like that, they really need to understand it then. So to have a broad understanding of what goes on in talent attraction, I think it's vital for them to understand this. But will a recruiter be involved in it? Probably not.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. There's an element of seniority to it. Like, who makes the decision to buy
or specialism.
Yeah, it could be a specialist.
Or specialism.
Yeah, you're right. It could well be someone who is, how do you call this person? A recruitment marketer? No, maybe a candidate acquisition person, or even a recruitment advertiser, like a person who is focused on getting maximum value from your job ad budget. Maybe that's a specialist role. But I think for most recruiters who just have to manage, advertising, sourcing, candidate handling, and all the rest of it, there's no way they're going to get involved in this at an operational level. It has to be brought up here, and then they just got to get the candidates through once it's out there. So maybe that's the reason why the level of literacy is quite low.
Yeah, I think it is. But I am praying for the day when a team of say 5 recruiters whose job today is 360-degree recruitment I'm praying for the day when in every situation like that, one person is not filling jobs. They're in charge of delivering candidates for everybody else. That's the person who needs to understand this intimately. And they need to understand nurture marketing, and they need to understand talent communities, and they need to understand, those types of things. The person there should be somebody within every 5 recruiters, at least one person needs to really understand that, and needs to be the person delivering candidates for the rest of the team. That's the optimum scenario as far as I'm concerned.
I like that formulation. Every 5 recruiters, there's one person that basically is a candidate acquirer. And the other recruiters, maybe they're managers of relationships, they're candidate handlers, let's say, they're doing other things. But I totally get you. Maybe you get someone who's an advertising person and then someone who's a sourcing person, because it strikes me they're like 2 separate mentalities, perhaps. But they're both there to acquire candidates in a different way.
They are, but interestingly, talent sourcers are very good at picking up, advertising and marketing concepts, because they're quite technical. They learn new things. They're creative. They work out what doesn't work and then try something different, so they iterate.
No. Sources denigrate advertising, though. They denigrate the activity. I mean, I don't say this in a negative way, sources, but you tell me, if I said, hey, do some recruitment advertising, you would think, you know what? That's like a weak way to generate candidates. I can do it faster and better my way. So I think it's 2 tribes type scenario here. Exactly, Tom. Thrill of the chase. It's totally different. One is trying to identify and headhunt effectively. The other is trying to do attraction. I think that's the 2 tribes, man.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying they're not two tribes, but what I'm saying is that the talent sourcer has got the skill set to be able to learn other forms of top of the funnel talent attraction. Sure. And I've seen it happen with the nurture marketing product that I sell. Talent sourcers can adapt to it. They can understand how to put email sequences together and scoring models and things like that.
That's highly correlated with getting better results from sourcing, though. Whereas advertising is the acquisition top of the funnel. And probably your engagement issues are going to be different because the person's actually applied for the job. So your chances of interacting with that person, I think, are higher. So anyway, it's a separate show.
But sorry, one other thing though about that, right? talent sourcing, to me, talent sourcing needs to evolve in a couple of ways. And instead of purely focused on there's an underwater basket weaver job, you need to go and find the 3 people in the world who could do that. Talent sourcers need to be responsible for bringing in the complete addressable market into the sphere of that company so that they can communicate with them. So they need better skills or they need broader skills than just Boolean and first stage approach. They need broader skills than that, in my view.
I would say that's a rebranding of the job. I mean, I get it. Sourcing, though, probably does need to expand scope to say, you know what, we're dealing with candidate acquisition at a higher level. But if you look at any sourcing event or sourcing conference or whatever it is sources are talking about, they're still talking about search. And they're talking about kind of hacking a technical system in order to extract candidate data or information that could lead to a candidate. That's where the magic of sourcing is. I think that's a different type of person, someone who's going to be very activated by advertising.
2017, I got on stage at Sozu in Amsterdam and told 300 sourcers, you got to broaden your skills. And they all agreed with me. I didn't get booed off stage.
Yeah, but you've never been invited back, have you? So
I didn't pay to go back.
To be honest, I've never been invited back either, and rightly so. There's better people than us stepping up to sourcing. Anyway, let's get on and bring in Robin because he's going to set us to rights. He's going to basically landscape this thing and give us a 101, which I think we need. There he is, Robin Stander. How are you doing, sir? Oh no, he looks shocked.
You're there.
Can you see me?
Yes.
Robin, you're on, mate.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear and see
you. Can
Robin.
hear me. I can't hear you, Hung.
All right. Well, that's disastrous, isn't it? I'll tell you what. Hang on. We can hear and see you.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, good. I can't see you at all, Hung.
Right. Let's see. Can you refresh the browser? Good Lord. This is a professional operation here, folks. Let's see how we get on.
I was on Crowdcast on something else, and I had to do that. I'd never had to do that before.
I think the basically version 2, man. I mean, the version 2 of Crowdcast is on. So, I mean, by the way, if Robin, you can see and hear Robin, he can just deliver what he's got to say. But I'd obviously like to interact with him.
So, version 2 of Crowdcast is what basically it's the Control-Alt-Delete or switch it off and back on again method,
Something
right?
Like can you hear us okay, Robin?
Yeah, I can now. Sorry about that.
Excellent.
All right, no worries, mate. No worries. Good to see you, man. Good to see you as ever.
You're
looking quite smart there, actually. Is that a waistcoat there, I see?
It is a waistcoat. I was a little bit undecided in terms of the weather when I stepped out of the house at midday. I wasn't sure whether to wear a jacket, so I went for the waistcoat.
Yeah, man.
Maybe I shouldn't have done after all.
Not at all. Smart attire. I like it. So, Robin, for the people who don't know you, can you quickly introduce yourself, who you are, what it is you do, sir?
Yes. Good to see you both again. So I'm Robin Stander. I'm Vice President of Sales for Appcast. I've been with the business for about 16 months now, joined in January 2021. In my previous life, I spent 11 years at Dapper. Thank you, Steve. Good to see you. I spent 11 years at TotalJobs.com. In the latter period of that, I was head of international sales. And then in 2016, I left the business to set up the UK division of ZipRecruiter, which is now one of the second largest job board in the US market. They've recently listed on the New York Stock Exchange, doing very well. And then joined the business in 2021.
That's good stuff, Robin. So there's very few people, I think, that understand the job advertising landscape quite as well as you do. And I just want to draw your attention to the poll that has just been conducted here at the bottom of your screen. Can you see the results here? Essentially, over half the people here have never used programmatic job advertising. Does that surprise you? Like, what is the market penetration on programmatic? I don't think it's that high, is it? I mean, can you give us an idea how many people, sort of what percentage of the market is actually using technologies like Appcasts?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll just keep reading the comments every time they come through. Thanks for that, Adam. It's quite off-putting. Yes, so if we were in the US market, the conversation would be very different. The large proportion of enterprise level customers in the US are all using programmatic in some capacity. Right. That's primarily been driven by their usage of Indeed. So Indeed came into the market in 2008 in the US, did a phenomenal job, blew the market completely wide open and are largely dominant in that space. And they were the business that launched cost per click. So for the first time, you could realize someone engaging with your advert rather than just be paying on a duration-based posting model. So they've educated the market. They've brought them up to speed. And I would generally say the US is 3 or 4 years ahead of the UK. So the landscape in the UK is somewhat different. We've been here for about 3 years. And first and foremost, when you bring a new job advertising mechanism into a market, the first thing you do is you try and acquire job seekers or job seeker traffic. So you build out a publisher network. And then the second thing you do is you approach lots of other job boards in the market, of which there are about 500 plus in the UK. And you ask them whether they want to buy traffic from you. And for most job boards in the UK market, that's their primary driver of new candidate acquisition. They buy from people like us.
All right, explain this to me. I don't understand this idea of buying traffic. Like, if I'm a job board, I run a job board, I'm just like hoping for the best, right? So how do I buy traffic from Appcast? Like, how does that even work?
Yeah, good question. So if you think about in the UK market, there are 3 large generalists that have been here for about 21 years. So that's totaljobs.com, job site, read.co.uk and CV Library, all very strong businesses in their own right. Obviously, they have very big backing and they have very big marketing spend. So they will acquire new job seekers on the website who will apply for jobs on the site, and they'll do that in different ways. So some of them will have good SEO on Google. Others will spend a lot on search engine marketing to ensure that they're positioned well on Google in the paid listings. Others will do television advertising at any particular point in time. They'll do radio on a regional basis. They may
I've seen cars. I've seen field advertising for those products as well. I've seen them on the side of buses and stuff like this. So
exactly. And any train station you go to, particularly regionally, you'll always see CV Library advertised on the billboards or even on the trains themselves. All those different mechanisms mean that they, combined, they have somewhere between 5 and 10 million unique users coming to their site on a monthly basis. The market dynamic shifted around 2012 when Indeed turned up, because Indeed did a phenomenal job of basically gaming Google, i.e. when you went to Google and you typed in jobs or sales jobs or engineering jobs, all of the natural listings and all the paid listings on Google were Indeed. And so by default, they took up all of the search traffic. And they've done a phenomenal job. And now, because they've got very deep pockets, they've also been able to dominate in the paid space. They've got very strong brand identity, and they're now also spending on TV as well. For the large proportion of other players in the UK market, people who are in very niche sectors, they don't have that deep pocketed marketing spend, and therefore they need to kind of be a little bit more tactical about how they bring job seekers to the website. So that may come from having a very good social positioning. That may well come from finding other ways of acquiring job seekers by doing events and so on. Or they may well approach aggregators or job ad exchanges like us and pay on a cost per click basis for any candidates that are driven from our network back to their site.
All right, so stop press there. What it means buying traffic, it basically means that my advert on my job board appears on stuff that you're running, and you're helping to basically amplifying that advert, even though it's Appcast something or other or whatever aggregator it is. And I would pay you based on how many people come from your distribution. It's almost like an affiliate marketing idea, isn't it?
Yeah, and if you go to like a third-party tool like SimilarWeb and you want to see where the traffic coming from, then aggregator traffic or job ad exchange traffic is called referral traffic. And for some job boards in the market, referral traffic might be 20% of their overall traffic volume. Others, it may be 70 to 80%. So they'll be spending very aggressively with people like us.
Very interesting.
The kind of the message there is there's not enough available new traffic in the marketplace for everybody to get their hands on, and therefore job boards and corporate enterprises will come to us in order to acquire new job seekers that they haven't already got access to.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I totally get it. And you're able to give you basically, you can position those adverts in such a way that kind of the most relevant people would be applying to those, and then as they click through, they'll click first on your thing, but they'll then basically click through on my thing, and then essentially I've got the candidate as a result of that activity. Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool.
Now, and if you're a job board, what you really want to be doing, and a lot of the job boards do is when they post their advert on an aggregator, the candidate clicks on the job, the candidate goes back to the job board, and then you would try and get the candidate to apply. And while they're applying, you would try and get them to register. And by registering and getting them to sign up for jobs by email, then you can then start marketing more jobs to that job seeker. So rather than having one click from that job seeker through their entire lifetime, you can maybe get 20 clicks out of them instead.
Yeah, very interesting. Okay, so none of this is programmatic as of yet, right? This is just simply how job boards acquire traffic, as you say. Aggregators have kind of have this love-hate relationship with job boards in the sense that they've hijacked they've jumped up the value chain, so to speak, to capture the traffic, but they then are essential in distributing that traffic down to the job boards that actually do need it. Adam, you about to say something?
Yeah, I've got a really, really brilliant business idea, and actually I think between the three of us we could do it. Why don't we set up a business with the purpose of aggregating the aggregators?
Well, yes, that's what we've done.
Is that what Appcast is?
We don't call it that. We call it a job ad exchange. But yes, similar thinking.
So a job ad exchange is what? An aggregator of aggregators?
In theory, yes.
Wow.
Different terminology.
Meta.
This terminology, it's terminology is fascinating. Okay, we've got a question here from Victoria Barrywoods. So she's saying, okay, she's spending money theoretically with Indeed, Read, Total Jobs. They're all using programmatic on my behalf to optimize adverts. Is that the case?
No, that's something different. That's something different. The answer is no.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. We'll dive into that a bit more, Victoria. Please keep commenting so we can clarify your understanding here. Everyone is fairly ignorant. I totally am ignorant. I'm asking these genuine questions because from a position of ignorance, and Robin's going to help fill in those gaps for us. Okay. Fine. So you've taken us down a history of how all of this works. What about sort of the where does the programmatic thing come in? Because this is about pricing, isn't it? This is about no, it's not. It's about being able to kind of understand where the job advert appears in a particular place that's optimized to get sort of the right traffic. Isn't that what programmatic is?
Yeah, so I guess let me take you back to the start of the journey, and then it will be easier to understand, and it will also reference Victoria's question, as I know the direction you're going in here. So if you think about Victoria's question in the context of the UK market, for the last 21 years, people, recruiters, in-house recruiters, recruitment consultancies have been approaching job boards or being called by job boards like Reed, TJ, CV Library, Monster, and further back in my career, people like Fish for Jobs and Workthing. That's probably more like a 2005, 2006 type approach, Career Builder as well, and then a load of other niche ones. So you would have taken a sales call from someone at Reed at some particular point in time, and they would have told you that they've got X number of unique users and X number of people on their database, and you would have bought into the idea of using their job board. When you're ready to commit to them, they'll say, how many jobs do you want to advertise on a monthly basis? And you'll say, I've got 30 jobs to advertise. And then they'll whip out their rate card and they'll say, based on the rate card cost right now, it's going to cost you £3,000 for the month. And if you sign up for a period of 12 months, which is the default, then we'll give you a 10% discount. And if you sign up with me now at the end of this month, then I can give you an extra discount on that. And so you commit to a volume of jobs that can be posted within a specific time period. And those jobs will all go live for either 28 or 30 days. You post the jobs on the job board either manually or by using a multi-posting tool like Broadbean or Logic Melon or Idaboo or eQuest. And then the jobs go live on the job board. And then what usually would happen is that after about a week or two of having response being delivered to your adverts, the response starts to subside. And the reason why the response starts to subside is because your jobs have dropped down the listings because they are deemed to be no longer relevant, because other jobs that have the same keywords and the same job title and location have been posted laterally, and therefore they start to overtake your jobs in the listings. So you get on the phone and you speak to your account manager and say, what's going on? Where's all my response? And they say, well, your job's fallen off the first page. There's not really much you can do other than by adding additional keywords into the body of the text to increase the relevancy of the advert. What usually happens is over a period of a month is that some of your jobs do really, really well. They might get 15 applications per job, 20 applications a job, and it's usually on the very, very easy to fill roles. On the hard to fill roles, however, you've got no applications or one or two applications that aren't relevant. Thus, at the end of that month, you are generally a little bit pleased, but somewhat dissatisfied, but you're locked into a 12-month contract. And it's always been like that. Then when Indeed turned up in 2012, they fundamentally shifted the entire direction of the market, because for the first time they said, we're not going to sell you a duration-based posting. We're just going to charge you every time someone clicks on a job. And everybody loved it. And Indeed did a phenomenal job because they had so much traffic. They were generating lots and lots of clicks on every single advert. And they offered some of those clicks for free. They called it organic. And then they moved people to a paid model. And so the market has started to transition in the direction of performance-based advertising, i.e. cost per click. And that's where Indeed have really done well. Now, businesses like Reed, TJ and CV Library have all seen that. And so although they still offer a duration-based posting model, they do also offer the facility to buy on a performance basis in the form of either a click or an application. So where we come into that mix, feel free to jump in, where we come into that mix is that we offer something a step ahead of that. We offer something called cost per completed application. So what we've done is we now offer the ability to integrate with an ATS, and that might be anyone from Workday, SuccessFactors, iCIMS, all the way through to all the UK-based aggregators, ATSs like ERQ, TribePad, ePloy, and many, many others. And the basic concept is that a customer would come to us and they say, we want to advertise 50 jobs this month, and we want to generate X number of applications on each of those jobs. We would take an XML feed of those jobs directly out of the ATS, and we would ingest them into our programmatic software. That now means that every time the recruiter makes a change to the jobs in the ATS, they update a job, they add a job, they remove a job or modify a job, that's automatically reflected in our software in real time. So we've got access to everything. We take those jobs and we distribute them across a network of market-leading job boards and aggregators in the UK, to include names like TJ, Reed, CV Library, Monster, all the aggregators like ZipRecruiter, Talent.com, JobRapido, JobGate, and Adzuna, and then many, many, many others. So we've got a very large footprint.
Stop press. You're saying distribute. Don't those job boards charge you to do that? Or is there some reason why they're happy to just take that job?
No, they take the jobs from us and we bid within their ecosystem on a cost per click basis. So as long as they can receive a cost per click bid from our software, and they can see what that how competitive that cost per click bid is on their site, then they can work with us. They can work within our exchange.
Okay, I don't understand, Robin. So I am a job board that I've signed up with some agreement with you guys, and you have decided programmatically that my job board's amazing for this particular job, and like. What's happening here? Like, does it just appear on my job board and something like?
No, that's not it. So if you are working with any of the job boards I've mentioned already, that's fine. You can continue to do that. We are an alternative to that duration-based buying model. So what you do is instead you would speak with us directly, and we would give you one contract that covers you the entire exchange. So it gives you access to the entire addressable market.
All right. No, hang on, Robin. That is from a customer point of view, which I get, right? So that's the end. But I'm a job board, right?
Yeah.
I want to understand the relationship you have with job boards. So how come a customer's dealing with you? You take a job out and you just stick it on my job board, what, for free? Like, do I charge you for this? Like, how does this work?
Me or who are you referring to?
Appcast buys the advert space on the behalf of the customer at a rate that the customer can't buy.
Yeah.
Is the dumbed down answer to your question?
I need dumbed down, man. I mean, obviously, I need dumbed down.
Appcast buys the advertising space wherever it is on a real-time basis.
Yeah.
On an algorithm, using algorithms that a customer just can't get their head around and can't use.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, Robin, is that?
That's it. That's exactly it. So think a bit about it's the evolution of where you were previously. You would go to one job board and you would buy advertising on that one job board, and you may then have a conversation with another job board, and you might end up having visibility on 3 or 4 job boards on a paid basis. With us, you are getting access to the entire addressable market all in one place through one contract. So you don't have to speak to all of those individual contracts and have different terms, different procurement processes, and different integrations in place.
Yeah, no one wants this, and I totally get it. That from a end client point of view, it makes total sense, because basically I speak to you guys and I don't speak to anybody else ever again. With regards to job board salespeople or whatever, I'm not interested. I'm just dealing with Appcast or a competitor of Appcast. The relationship with the job boards, though, when I'm signing a contract up with you, like, what is the deal? What the job board is getting from you? You're basically saying, you know what, we're not going to buy anything now, but there may be in future a customer that we think is going to be has a job that's suitable for your job board. And when that moment comes, we're going to buy some space, as Adam says, and then we're going to put the job in.
Yes, kind of. I think you're probably reading a little bit too much into it. So basically, the software is just dictating where the buy is made. So if I take a step back, when we take the XML feed of jobs from the ATS, what we're also doing is we're giving the ATS a tracking pixel. That tracking pixel goes on the apply complete page of the ATS. So when the candidate finds a job within our ecosystem, they click on that job, they get automatically redirected to the job on the ATS. They fill out a registration page, they click on the apply button, and at the point in which they do that, a big green tick will appear, and it will say, thanks for completing the application. The candidate can't go any further in the process, and that's where our pixel fires. Our pixel sends a piece of basically a signal back to our software, and our software says, great, we've completed one application. We can now invoice the customer for that application. But what the signal is also telling us is where we bought that candidate from. So if we bought that candidate from read.co.uk, it is a signal to our software that Read are doing a good job. And therefore, more of the customer's budget starts to get pushed towards Read. Conversely, and I'm not picking on anyone here, if Monster are sending me hundreds and hundreds of clicks, but that's not resulting in any applications for the customer, our software will see that and they will cut Monster off because they are not sending good quality traffic through that we can convert. The second part of this is we can also do an integration with the ATS whereby we can track all the way through the hiring process. So if, for example, Read are sending through lots and lots of applications that are not resulting in hires or first stage or second stage interviews, the software will see that in the data, and again, it will cut or add spend depending on what the results that it's seeing. So it's moving the spend around in real time. It's making the decision about where to buy rather than someone influencing the decision based on the fact they have a good relationship with the account manager at Read or TJ and they bought with them historically. That's not the best way to buy. The best way to buy is based on data, and that's why we let the software make the decision.
So is the first couple of hits for free then, in the sense that you're testing the marketplace? So let's say I have dealing with you, I have a job. You distribute that job to however many, how does the distribution work? Do you blast it out to everything you've got, or do you do like in echelons?
So depending on the type of role that we've got, everybody within our network potentially has the opportunity to traffic those jobs. However, depending on the bid we are sending to market, which is a cost per click bid, some job boards will say that bid's not high enough. If you want to be within our marketplace, you need to bid more aggressively. Fine, the software will see that. Conversely, they may already be working with the customer directly, in which case they may reject the feed. Ultimately, everybody gets an opportunity to traffic the job. Now, what's happening is we are buying from those job boards on a cost per click basis. So they can drive hundreds and hundreds of clicks through. The risk is all on my shoulders, because if Read send me 100 clicks, I'm still paying them for those clicks. But if it's not resulting in an application for the customer, I can't invoice the customer, and therefore I'm at a deficit. And so our software sees that, and it will make adjustments to where the budget is being spent. So there's nothing free for the customer in the sense that all the risk is on me, basically.
Very, very interesting, folks. Isn't this interesting? By the way, I'm being educated here on something that I probably should know, but you know, it's a yawning gap in my brain. I think I need to write about it in order for me to embed in. But I think this is super interesting. I want to give a quick stop press because we always try and do this in the middle of the show, but unfortunately, it's towards the end of the show. But we're still going to do it anyway. And what we do here is that we take a moment and we make sure that the people who are interested in this topic have the opportunity to connect with other people that are also interested in the topic after the conversation is over. So take a moment, get your LinkedIn profile and share it in the chat stream, share it on the LinkedIn thread, share it on Facebook. Make sure you then connect with everyone else who has shared their profile there. Hopefully you're going to walk away from this not only with some education, but with, a couple dozen people that are also interested in programmatic job advertising. And if you have any future conversations that you need to have and Robin's not available or Adam's not available, and you definitely don't want to ask me about this. So, go and connect with other people that are also involved in this chat. And then together we'll all figure it out. So take a moment, share your links in there.
Sorry, Hung, while you're doing that, just to refer to some of those questions from Nikki. Can you track analytics per job board so we can understand which site is providing best ROI? Absolutely. We are source agnostic. You can see all of the breakdown of performance by job board within your dashboard, which we provide access to. So ultimately, we don't care where your budget is being spent as long as it's being spent in the best place for you. So if Reed's the best performer, they get more of the budget, and you'll see that in the data.
This is one of the main reasons. This is one of the main reasons for using programmatic advertising.
Absolutely. Victoria, what is the cost model? So it's cost per completed application. So we're the only people in the market that are doing that. Does it allow predictability and control? Absolutely. So when you do programmatic, it's all about setting rules in the system. So you will know that for a secretarial PA and admin role within your organization, you don't really need to receive 500 clicks and you don't need 500 applications. You just need 3 good quality applications in order to make a hire. So we have these upfront discussions with you, and then we set a rule in the system to say, at the point in which this job hits 3 applications, stop spending budget on it. And conversely, that budget is then moved towards the software engineering roles that are struggling for applications. The idea being is at the end of the month, you've got a uniform volume of applications in order to make a hire, as opposed to easy to fill roles are taken care of, but the hard to fill roles are left. But yes, absolutely predictability. And it's about ensuring there's no wastage. And you will have seen a lot of wastage with pay-per-click because you pay for clicks you don't need.
So basically, just a quick stop press, evolution of job board pricing models is pay-per-duration. That's a classic one. Then it's gone pay-per-click. And now you're saying it's pay-per-completed click.
So pay-per-completed application.
Completed application. So in other words, the candidate has said, yes, I'm going to apply. And the additional value to that is you can monitor whether those applications actually then convert into offers and hires, even interviews, if they've connected in with the, sometimes interview is okay, that you can tick that as a positive submission. And the client can basically set to say, you know what, we can remove this if there's so many interviews in pipe. There's no need to keep advertising the job because that's actually going to overload my existing candidates. So folks, this is actually really important for under-resourced recruiting teams because it might be when you're distributing ads out there, like you don't know or can't predict how effective they're going to be. And you might be in a situation where you get surprised by a spike of applications and suddenly you're having to deal with all of these candidates, massive candidate experience problem because you can't handle all of the applicant flow. With something like Appcast, you can moderate that by setting a rule to say, you know what, 3 candidates interview, kill the ad.
Absolutely.
It's like the kind of software that fund managers use for predicting which stocks to invest in. Predictability software. That one's been performing really well. We're going to put a bit more into that. Actually, it's not performing quite as well. We're going to take it out and it automatically goes into that.
Yep.
All algorithm based. But Robin, my question is, why do we call it programmatic advertising when in mainstream marketing, the same thing in the mainstream world is called performance marketing? Why do we call it something different in recruitment?
I don't know the answer to that, Adam, to be honest with you, but there is I always have to make the clear differentiation that this type of programmatic job advertising is very different to programmatic consumer advertising, so display on Google and Facebook. So never the twain shall meet, basically.
Okay, quick one, guys, before we go, because I appreciate time. Dave's actually asked a really interesting question. Do you interface with Indeed LinkedIn in any way? Because they are still they've become this monster, which is super dominant in certain job sets. What's your relationship with Indeed? LinkedIn, sorry.
The answer is both. So Indeed, absolutely. And just to give you some context, so in the United States alone, 1/3 of all job advertising spend runs through our pipes. So that's either people buying advertising on a mix of job boards, inclusive of Indeed, or it's running through our software. So absolutely, we have a very good relationship with Indeed.
What about LinkedIn?
Yeah, same. So LinkedIn's job model is slightly different. So they largely do job slots, but you still have the ability to buy LinkedIn through us, and also for the performance of LinkedIn to be seen within our dashboard. So our solution itself is called Appcast Accelerate. That's our job ad exchange. So the idea being is you would see Appcast Accelerate and how it performs versus Indeed, LinkedIn, and then any other vendors. So it's a like for like, apples for apples comparison between how they all perform on a cost per completed application basis, as well as everything through the disposition steps like first stage, second stage interview. So the answer is yes.
You know what? I'd be very, having heard all this, I'd be just super surprised to see what your retention of customer is, because I can't imagine anybody going back to pay per duration once they've tried programmatic, which leads me to the question, which we're going to get to at the very end, but there's 4 questions that I want to get to from the people here. So real quick, I'm just going to blast through this. Let's have a look at Dave. Dave Nurse again, he said, if you use recruitix.com and they manage your spend, do you consider that programmatic? Are they part of, what are recruitix.com? Are they in your space?
They are, absolutely. So Recruitix are a friend, but also a competitor, specifically in the US marketplace. So very strong business. They do have a great job, but more specifically in the US, their visibility in the UK is relatively low.
Yep, cool. Let's move on real quick. So Christian said, Robin, I guess some job boards won't be happy to insert your pixel in their system. Can you still work with them, or is that a hard requirement?
We don't put the pixel in the job board. We put the pixel in the ATS.
Yep, cool.
And everybody does it, but there's obviously some level of discussion. So the reality of the pixel is a piece of JavaScript, and it works slightly differently with different ATSs. But the reality is it's like a copy and paste. It takes 5 to 10 minutes to do, depending on who's doing it at the time and how it's being prioritized by the ATS. There are obviously security and privacy questions associated with dropping a pixel. The reality of it is on the front end is that we're not storing any PII data. It's a truncated IP address, so we don't have any candidate data anyway. But with regard to the job board, we don't have any data from them.
Yep, that's cool. I think that sort of answers Christian's second question, which is sort of you're sitting on a hugely valuable amount of data that the job boards wouldn't want you to have. How do you manage that sensitive piece with them? So in other words, your negotiation with job boards, do they not consider you as a threat in the sense of, you're acquiring candidate data from their traffic?
No, we're not acquiring any specific candidate data at all. So it's all blind. To position it another way, the job boards do not see us as a threat. The reality is, by buying through Appcast, a lot of these job boards are getting access to a customer that they just would not have access to in the past. So usually when somebody approaches the recruitment marketing landscape, they'll say, well, we're definitely going to work with Indeed because we know they're a volume play. And then we might work with 1 or 2 of CB Library, Read, Total Jobs, and then they might have a niche relationship as well. So a lot of these job boards will never get access to some of these enterprise level customers unless it comes through us. So it's by no means a competitive threat to them.
Just that wasn't quite how I actually read Christian's question, though. I thought Christian's question was, you, Robin, and any other programmatic vendors have got basically access to a league table of the best performing job boards, and they probably wouldn't want you to know that in the healthcare industry that job board is number 5. They're not going to want you to. They're not going to want to. The public to know that. For example, they want to position themselves as number 1.
It's only publicly available data to the client that has that data at the time, and that changes on a daily basis, second by second, job and location level. So there will be one job board that historically performs very, very well for one particular type of role, but of course, depending on the marketing they're doing at that particular time, that dynamic shifts towards another job board, and it really does. We see one job board will be performing very well in March, and then they'll fall away. But it's fine for you as a buyer because it doesn't impact your traffic delivery, because the traffic delivery will be made up by another job board that happens to be performing well in that particular month.
All right, listen, we're coming to the end of the show. Final question for you. I'm convinced, right? Are we not convinced, folks? This is the way forward. This is the future, which leads us to a final question. Why is it not like completely market dominant? Like, where are we with this? What's your theory as to why there's still a commitment to pay per duration and even pay per click?
Yeah, it's just careful with the wording, but market maturity. So in the US, everybody gets it now because it landed in the US first. It's generally a Western European or rather a Western market model, i.e. it's moved from the US into the UK and now it's starting to spread its tentacles into Western Europe. It works best in markets where there's a high level of job board penetration. Not so well in markets like Eastern Europe, for example, where, I don't know, if you look at Hungary or the Czech Republic, for example, there's only one or two big players. They have like 70 to 80% market share. What you need is lots and lots of job boards, lots and lots of aggregators to buy from so that you can cast the net really wide. But it's just about how ultimately how quickly the message is moving. There are a number of recruitment advertising agencies in the marketplace who you'll be familiar with, who are going to market now and saying they're doing programmatic, which they are, and it's great, and it's raising the visibility, but they're actually using our software as a layer underneath that. So if you weren't familiar with the Appcast name, it doesn't necessarily mean you aren't already using us.
Very interesting. Okay, well, listen, this has been fascinating, Robin. Thank you very much for giving us this 101. Folks, I hope you found this as interesting and as valuable as I have. This show is a little bit indulgent, I have to say, because I just wanted to be educated. So, so thank you, Robin, for that. Really interesting. If everyone, by the way, if you want to know more, follow Robin on LinkedIn. He will be sort of happy to engage with you, and he's got a team that can help as well. And make sure you check out Appcast, appcast.io, I think it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, have a play, have a look-see, get educated on how to get more effective sort of advertising. And by the way, the biggest thing for me is less wastage and less acquisition of candidates that you don't want or need that you then have to reject anyway. So imagine all of the candidate experience problems we're getting because we've just ingested way too many people that we're never going to hire. That's a waste of their time. It's a waste of our time now that we need to handle all of those people. So I think this is good. This is a really good show. All right, Robin, listen, let me let you go. No man should be wearing a waistcoat at 3 p.m. and Friday afternoon. So go ahead and enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you soon. I reckon you'll be in some of these events coming up, aren't you? So we'll catch up with you hopefully in person in due course. So thank you very much for the knowledge drop, man.
Thank you both. Good to see you. Thanks everyone, and have a good afternoon and weekend.
That was really good.
Yep.
That was really, really good. And we should maybe do more of these where we get like a super expert to come in and just drop some stuff on us, like data science. Do we know anything about that? Not really. Right. Okay, let's do that. Do you know what I mean? Like a proper deep dive, not even a proper deep dive, but a deeper than usual where we get a panel. It's hard to do in that way. So yeah, we should totally do this. All right, listen, thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week. We're doing Founders Focus with Markelos Diorinis. On Tuesday, make sure you follow us for that. And we're also going to be talking about workforce planning, strategic workforce planning. How do we solve recruitment? Guess what? We can solve it by planning ahead of time, giving us more runway to solve these problems. How much of what we do is firefighting? If we avoid doing the firefighting in the first place, we could probably do everything else a lot better. Make sure you follow the channel and register for that show. We will see you next week. All right, that's it. Anyway, that's it, Adam. So thank you very much for hanging on. I enjoyed that chat.
Me
you
too.
have a very good weekend.
You too.
I will see you soon.
See ya.